Hello, our nightmarish creatures. As we stated at the end of the extraction, we are going to redo all the stories that were written by Gaming Master 141 because we felt it was time to give better sound quality to his work, and we really loved the stories. You can read it via the link in the description below. Also, thank you to our partners at Dubby for helping provide this week's creepy tales. Dubby is a tasty, jitter-free energy drink that is packed with flavor, variety, and of course, a 10% discount when you use coupon code Dark Little Voices at checkout. And with that, let's get into tonight's creepy tale. The Mirror Man by Gaming Master 141. Hello, my name is Joshua Stonefield, and I'm 17 years old. I live in Burnsville, Wisconsin, and I will never leave it. Too many memories haunt me here. My brother David died a few months ago by a deranged killer. That moment destroyed me. I've grown fat. I've dropped out of high school. I've destroyed my life. And it's my fault he's dead. Don't call it self-blame, it's not. I showed him the job application. He worked as a pizza delivery boy at a hole-in-the-wall pizza shop. I've contemplated suicide several times, but the thought became unbearable when I thought about my mother. She'd be alone if I left this world. My dad died 10 years ago in a car accident. My mother won't last much longer, I'm presuming. His death hit her hard. I only have one friend left, Bill Brown. He is also 17 years old, and he stayed in school unlike me. He deserves a good life. He always stuck by me. Always. Even when we explored the house where one of Burnsville's most famous happenings occurred. That's not the story I'm telling, though. This is much darker and much more terrifying. I sat alone in my room on my bed, staring at the TV. Bill was bringing my groceries to me. I felt bad about him doing that. I hadn't asked him to, but he knew if he didn't, I wouldn't, and I would starve myself to an early grave. The news was on. I was watching intently. A story about an invisible man who was going rampage. I laughed at the utter stupidity. Fools don't see this as fake, I said, shaking my fat head. I reached for the plastic, grease-stained TV remote. I pressed a small rubber button to change the channel to something less preposterous. I switched it to some game show. I sat there amazed with myself. Astonishing. A skinny kid became severely obese in less than 3 months. My stupidity got the better of me, and I let myself go. I had a life ahead of me. I was a top performer on the varsity baseball team at Burnsville High. I owe my life to Bill. I picked my fat behind off the old bed, stood still for a moment thinking whether to follow through on my plan. I tried pulling on my shoes. Somehow, my large feet managed to squeeze inside, grabbed my keys and stuffed them into my shorts. I yanked open the door and closed it behind me. The lights in the hall were blinding. I blinked rapidly, trying desperately to see the world again. I walked down the hall, looking at the golden numbers embedded into tens of doors on my floor. I stumbled into the sunlight and froze in its light. I looked around for my car. I barely knew what it looked like anymore. I saw trees for the first time in months. The air tasted fresh and clean. It was mesmerizing to see the world again. I felt like a baby may feel, witnessing life for the first time. I found my car, not by the license plate or even the brand. I was the proud owner of the ugliest car in Burnsville. It was a greenish yellow Honda. Just like David's, I thought, fighting back tears. God knows how old the hunk of metal was. It was covered in dust and dirt from sitting still for months. When I locked myself away, I had no intentions of coming out of my chamber. I had no clue where Bill lived, but I made it my mission to make it to his home. I saw an older woman, probably in her early 40s, walking down the sidewalk. "Do you happen to know where Bill Brown lives?" She thought for a second and spoke.
I'm sorry, who are you?
"Joshua Stonefield. Bill's my friend," I replied quickly.
Oh my gosh, how didn't I recognize you? I was your 8th grade teacher, Mrs. Williams.
We stood there for a while. "So, do you know where Bill lives now?" I asked again.
Oh yes, he lives right next to the Quick Trip.
Mrs. Williams told me. "Thank you," I said and climbed into my car. The engine roared back to life when I popped the key into the ignition lock. I drove slowly to the Quick Trip and pulled into the parking lot. I didn't need to get gas, just a gift for Bill. I grabbed the extra $10 bill I kept in the glove box and strode into the Quick Trip. The cold air from the store hit me like a wave. It was refreshing and felt great after getting out of my stuffy car in the middle of summer. I saw a box of assorted chocolate and snatched it up and brought it to the cashier. "Josh?" he asked. "Oh shit, it's you. Man, I haven't seen you in months. Where were you?" "I was home," I spoke. His name was Tom Wilford, another faded memory from high school. "The whole time? Why?" "Oh, I'm so sorry, Josh. I should have known," he said to me. "Don't worry about it. Just don't say it again," I stuttered, handing him the box of chocolate and the $10 bill. He took the money and handed the box of chocolate along with the change back to me. I walked out of the gas station without another spoken word. "That kid has been through too much," Tom thought to himself sympathetically. I walked over to Bill's from the gas station. I walked quietly up the path to the house. A loud crash came from within the house. "Bill?" I shouted. No response. I rang the doorbell 3 times. I stood for a minute waiting for someone to answer, but nothing. I wanted to call the police, but my phone and internet had been shut off 2 months ago. Yet again, my stupidity got the better of me and opened the door to his home. "Bill!" I called again into his house. "Josh!" A soft voice came from the bathroom on the 2nd level. I jogged up the carpeted steps and waited to hear his voice again. "Josh!" the voice cried. I ran into the bathroom and saw Bill on the floor. His shirt was drenched in ungodly amounts of blood, and he was surrounded in broken glass from a mirror. I stood in shock. "Help me, Josh," he whimpered, grabbing my leg. "Who did this to you?" I asked urgently. "Have you seen the news? He did it," he replied to me in tears rolling down his face. No, no. That's just a prank. It can't be real," I said back. He moaned as he pointed at a shard of broken glass. A man stood looking at me inside the glass. His face seemed burned off, and he was clutching a bloody glass shard. He had chunks of missing flesh. He stared at me but never moved. Suddenly, my chest exploded in pain. I tore off my shirt, exposing deep red slashes in my chest. They spelled Bill. I howled in pain. After several minutes, the pain calmed down. I looked back at the shard, but the man was gone. I looked down at Bill, only to see his mangled corpse. He was gone. The last person who really cared about me. Gone.
No.